I'm going to be heading off to Essen soon to attend Spiel 18 convention, where there'll be 1,000 new board games released. In this video, I want to introduce you to 10 great games that will be there, that I would recommend, and give you an idea about whether you might like them. I was only able to make this video because of the support from my Patreon backers. If you find it useful, please consider donating to the channel. In Treasure Island, you play as pirates trying to find Long John Silver's treasure. One player secretly decides where on this huge map the treasure is buried by drawing an X marks the spot on their board. The other pirates are racing to find the treasure first. They do that by moving around the map, following clues and digging holes. If they don't find it in time, Long John Silver will escape his tower and run to pick up the treasure himself and win the game on his own. It's intensely thematic as you spend the game drawing on your map, trying to eliminate possible areas and deduce where it could be. Every round, Long John Silver gives the pirates a clue. He will draw circles on the board with his amazing compass, using it to show where the treasure is or where it isn't. He will tell the pirates which of them has been closest to the treasure throughout the game. He will tell them whether it's hidden in a forest or in the water. Each clue he won't want to give, so he has to decide how to give as little information as possible. And twice in the game, he has the option to lie to the other players. So the other players have to take his information with a grain of salt and try to learn which clues he was lying about. Treasure Island is an experience game. Everything is set up to sell you on the idea of being a pirate hunting for treasure. The board is a whiteboard map that you draw on. The incredible compass, plastic templates and rulers for your cartography. It feels like no other game I've ever played. As the game ramps up, there's a tension for both sides as the pirates feel desperately close to finding it. But I have found that after using your special abilities, there can feel like there's a lack of clever decision making for the pirates. You have no more options but to just dig holes in the remaining potential spots, hoping you pick the right one. This one might not be for someone who wants a tight, brain-burning deduction game, but if you're looking for something that's refreshingly different and captures the theme of treasure hunting pirates, you should pick it up. Chronicles of Crime is a crime-solving game in the vein of Sherlock Holmes' Consulting Detective that uses an app to deliver its clues and story. The game lets you step into the crime scenes yourself by using virtual reality glasses with the phone app. You have 40 seconds to look around the room, shouting to your teammates what evidence you can see so that you can add it to your files for later research. 3 dead cats, a telephone, flowers. Like any good detective, you'll spend the game asking questions of the people involved in the case. You visit locations around London and speak to suspects and witnesses. Everything you do in the game requires you to scan a QR code in the app. You scan the location you're moving to, then scan the witness and what they say to you will appear on the screen. Then you can ask them questions about the rest of the case. And that's the ingenious bit of the game. Instead of just throwing information at you when you meet with the suspect, you have to know what to ask them. You can scan another character to find out what the person you're interrogating knows about them. Or you can scan some evidence found at the crime scene to see if they can tell you more about it. There are times it can feel a bit like you're just unraveling the story as you scan each lead and you're not having to use your brains that much. But as the cases get more complicated, you do have to think about who to ask what because you can't ask everyone everything. Some people won't enjoy using an app so much in a board game, but it works well and it lets the game achieve an interesting dynamic of being in charge of what questions to ask. If you want a really accessible crime-solving cooperative game that you could play with anyone and you don't mind using an app, this one is for you. In Shadows Amsterdam, you're split into 2 teams, racing to get to your objectives faster than your rivals. One member of the team can see where the objectives are on the map, and they have to try and communicate to their team by playing art cards that resemble or give clues about the location that they want them to visit. It's from Libellud, the company behind Dixit and Mysterium, the 2 games that are famous for communicating through card imagery. But in Shadows Amsterdam, there's no time for careful consideration and picking the right answer because you're playing in real time. If the clue giver takes too long giving the perfect clue, or if the guessers take too long deciding on where to go, the other team will cross the finish line first. But don't be too hasty. There are dangerous areas of the map that if you walk on, you'll lose a life. If you make 3 mistakes like that, you lose the game. Shadows Amsterdam feels like a wonderful combination of codenames and mysterium, turned up to 11 by introducing the frantic stress of a real-time game. I love how it pits two teams against each other and never lets the pace drop until the game is over. If you find Dixit or Mysterium a little too slow, this is the perfect antidote. And if you like party games, this one is exciting, simple to understand, and comes in the perfect codename-sized box. Detective, a modern crime game, is a crime-solving cooperative game from Portal Games. You have many case leads, but you have to use your intuition to know which ones to follow because you have limited time. The cases are rich and complex, and you will feel like real detectives as you take notes, pore over all the information, and argue with your friends about suspects and leads. I've made a full review of that game, there's a link in the description, so please watch that to find out more about whether it's for you. But for me, it's already one of my favourite games of all time. The River is the latest game from Days of Wonder, who are famous for beautiful, approachable games for newbies, like Ticket to Ride. And this one fits that bill perfectly. You're working to develop the land alongside your river, mine raw materials, and use them to construct buildings to create the best settlement. Every turn you take one of your workers and place it on a spot on the board to take an action. You can take terrain tiles which will improve your ability to mine resources, placing them in the next spot along your river. When you send a worker to mine clay, you get as much as your mines can deliver. But make sure that you have somewhere to store it. Each resource you make needs to have a barn to store it in, otherwise you lose it. Just like classic worker placement games, the competition over action spots is fierce. You can miss out on getting wood when you really need it. At 2 and 4 players, this game is really tight and timing is everything. You desperately want to build buildings as early as possible because the bonuses for doing so dwindle with every build. But if you rush in collecting resources when your engine is weak, then it's an inefficient use of your actions and you'll pay for it later on. If you can fill up a column of your river with 3 tiles of the same terrain, you get 6 points. But when your river reaches a certain length, you lose a worker. That means you'll get to do less actions each turn, so you have to time it right. I like that it's a newbie-friendly game, but that doesn't go easy on you with tension and thinkiness. If you're after an entry-level worker placement game, I think this one is great. The only thing that lets it down is its uninspiring theme. Railroad Inc. is a roll and write game where you're desperately trying to connect up a network of railways and roads, making as few errors as possible. Everyone has an identical whiteboard, and each round you roll the 4 dice. These are the routes you have to draw on your board this round, connecting them to an exit or an existing route. The goal is to join exits to one another, and the more exits you can connect as part of the same network, the more points you get. The trouble is, you've only got 8 rounds to connect up your plans, and dice are fickle. You could wait and wait to get that one piece of straight road you need to join it all up, and it never comes. Making things even trickier is having to contend with railways and roads. You need to make best uses of these stations that connect a rail network with a road network, but trying to fit them in isn't easy. At the end of the game, you get a minus point for every road and railway offshoot which doesn't connect to anything. And you get points for your longest road and railway. Railroad Inc. hits that perfect spot for a roll and write game of being easy to jump into and yet deliciously puzzly. And each version of the game comes with 2 expansion variants to make things more interesting. This is one of my favourite roll and write games, I love it. And the beautiful artwork, compact box, and the fact you could play it with anyone from 1 to 12 players, if you have both versions, make it a complete no-brainer to have on your Essen list. In Western Legends, you play as a character from the Wild West, trying to make a name for yourself. It's a sandbox game, which means there's many different things you can do and multiple ways to score points. You can play poker at the saloon against the other players to earn some cash, then spend it at the general store on new weapons or faster horses. You can go digging for gold nuggets and come back to the bank to trade it in for points and cash. Or you could heist the bank, rob their vault, and really go down in history. I love that you can decide which path to take. If you want to be the classic outlaw, you can rustle cattle and rob other players, and each round you'll score points for being such a badass. Or you can be the noble marshal, making a name for yourself by killing bandits and arresting the outlaw players in the game. Being a bad guy is rewarding but risky because if you get arrested, you lose all your reputation, and it makes for a tense game as you always need to stay one step ahead of the sheriff or other players looking to take you down. For an epic game, the rules are surprisingly streamlined, with most encounters coming down to these poker cards. Better hands will win you fights, but they might be put to better use for the actions on them, and how you use your hand is an interesting challenge. If you take wounds, your hand size decreases, and you have even less to choose from. I really enjoy the experience that Western Legends delivers. The freedom to do whatever you want is perfect for the Wild West genre, and it's the closest board games will come to the video game Red Dead Redemption. Each game you tell a new, memorable story. It won't be for everyone. The freedom of sandbox games means they can be loose, and there's some expectation on the player to balance the game. If you don't want someone to achieve a runaway outlaw strategy, you need to stop them. But that's totally in keeping with the theme, so I'm fine with it. If you enjoy games where you can rob other players and can handle a game that will take a good 2 hours, I can highly recommend Western Legends. Wildlands is a surprisingly simple miniatures game designed by Martin Wallace. In it, you control a faction of 5 characters, and your goal is to win 5 points before anyone else, either by collecting crystal shards or by killing other players' characters. Before the game, you secretly assign where on the board your characters will first appear. Then as the turns go on, you have to reveal a new character each turn, making for some nice surprises. Everything in the game happens by playing cards, and each card will have icons corresponding to some of your characters and the actions they can do. It means you're always at the mercy of your hand and what it will allow you to do, and since each card can only be used for one of its actions, it's tough to decide the best use for it. It gives the game a lot more tactical depth than you'd expect from a light miniatures game. Do you use that card now to move nearer a crystal shard, or hang on to it to protect your weak gnome from being killed? Each faction has its own character that, more than just being flavor text, comes out in the way they play. For example, this big character Lunk is impossible to kill, but he's also slow to get around because there's less cards that can activate him. The production of the game is stunning, beautiful artwork, and miniatures which have been painted with a wash that really help show their detail. But what's just as impressive is how simple and immediate the rules are to deliver a fun, tactical experience. If you've always been put off miniatures games because of their overly complex and fiddly rules, this could be the breath of fresh air you're looking for. Spring Meadow is a Tetris-style tile-laying puzzle game from designer Uwe Rosenberg. You're trying to fill up your board as quickly and as efficiently as you can. The holes in the Tetris pieces add an extra challenge as you get bonuses for connecting them together. I've made a full review of this game, so check that out to learn more. There's a link in the description. It's my current favourite Tetris puzzle game. Pictou Mania is a party game from the makers of Codenames that has you frantically drawing things as fast as you can. This is the second edition of a game that I reviewed in my Alternatives to Pictionary video. Every player is secretly assigned a word from the 3 lists that everyone can see. Then you all start drawing at the same time. As soon as you're finished, you can start guessing other people's drawings by placing the number that matches it in front of them. You want to be quick because the first correct guesses will get more points. But if you rush your drawing and no one guesses it, you'll get minus points. And if you rush your guessing, you might see a cape and guess they're drawing Batman, when if you'd waited longer, you would have seen it's actually Superman. Plus the number you played on Batman is actually the number from someone else's drawing, so now you've screwed up 2 guesses. Pictou Mania is fast, fun, and chaotic. You'll be shouting at each other for terrible drawings that don't make any sense, and cursing yourself for not making your drawing of hot chocolate clearer when there's coffee on the same list. This new version is perfect because it's in a codename size box, it's been made cheaper by using paper and pencils, and they've refined the list to give you less to read and more potential for funny confusion. If you like drawing games, this one is perfect. Those are the games. If you're going to be in Essen and you'd like to say hi or get a Timmy badge, I'm going to be at the Fog of Love booth on Friday morning from 10 until 2, Saturday morning from 10 until 2, and Sunday afternoon from 1 until the hall closes. Or you can just say hello if you see me around the halls. If you found this video useful, you can support more passionate scripted videos like this at patreon.com/Actualol. I'm John Purkis, thanks for watching.